Hi, this is Arthur Pearlie Martin, and I dropped in to talk about the temptations of Christ. Excuse me, this is my first time going live on YouTube. And I dropped in to talk about, um, and I dropped in to talk about the temptations of Christ. So, what was the temptations of Christ? Okay, how is it that Christ was tempted in all the ways that we have been tempted? That there's no temptation which is common unto man, except there's no temptation which is common unto man. You know, a lot of times we say, well, everything that we go through, Christ has already been through. But then someone would say, but yeah, but Christ never smoked drugs. We're not talking about sin. We're talking about temptations. Without temptation, there is no sin. So Christ overcame the temptations. He came the three major temptations that we all encounter is the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. Now Christ, when he went to, and the Spirit of the Lord led him through the wilderness in Luke chapter 4. He led him up there to fast for 40 days and 40 nights, and when he came down, the Bible says he was hungry. And there was the tempter. The first thing he wanted to tempt him with was food, because he was hungry. That was the lust of the flesh. The second temptation he tried to tempt him with was he took him up on the temple and he told him, if you look down and if you'll bow down and worship me, I'll give you all of this, because this has been given to unto me. It was given to him by Adam when in the fall. So he said, if you bow down and worship me, I'll give you all of this. I'll give you all of this, the lust of the eyes. And then the third temptation he went on to say was, if you be the Son of God, then cast yourself upon the stone and the angels will lift you up. And Jesus said, it's written, you should not tempt the Lord thy God, you should not test me. And that's what pride is. That's the pride of life. The pride of life, he will always try to tempt you to prove yourself, to tempt you to try to get you to do things. You know, it's the pride of life. Making you boastful and arrogance. That's the pride of life. Know that these are the three doors in which the enemy will come to tempt us with. Without temptation, once again, there is no sin. That's why it's not a sin to be tempted, because being tempted comes from the enemy. But the sin comes when we give in to the temptation. But know this, that the Bible tells us in First John that to love not the world nor the things of the world. For everything in the world is not is For everything in the world, which is the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, that's not of the Father. So that's the love of the world. What is the love of the world? The love of the world is the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. That's the love of the world. So love not the world, nor the things of the world. Be not conformed to the world. What is the world? The lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life. Be not conformed to the world, nor the things of the world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:1 and 2. So Jesus, he can identify what it feels like to be tempted by drugs and alcohol and lust and all those things, because he was tempted in all points, as is common unto men. He knows the pull. He knows what it feels like. The same demon. He knows what it feels like to be tempted by the lust of the flesh. You're talking about specific sins. I'm talking about the temptation itself. Don't look at the sins as being individual. Every sin falls up under one of these three categories. These are the gateways of the tempter. The lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life. This is the love of the world. What is the love of the world? The lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life. The very first sin that was ever committed in the book of Genesis in the earth was by Eve. And if you look at it, all three was in operation. She saw that the food was good, the lust of the eyes. She desired to eat it because she thought it was good, the lust of the flesh. And then she saw that it would make one wise, the pride of life. The tempter, these are the three doors. Every sin issue in our life falls up under one of those categories, the lust of the flesh. So Jesus conquered every area of temptation, but he knows what it feels like. For we have not a high priest who's not touched by the feelings of our infirmities, by the feelings of our weaknesses. Because he's touched by it. He's familiar with it. He can identify with us because he knows what it feels like to be tempted by the lust of the flesh. He knows how it feels to be tempted by the lust of the eyes. He knows what it feels like to be tempted by the pride of life, because he was tempted also, yet without sin. So also know this, that with every temptation, there's no temptation which is common to man, which is not common to man. Jesus is familiar with all three areas of temptation. So that's not, but he endured it. He overcame temptation by resisting the love of the world. He said that the evil one has no place in me. Jesus learned obedience by the things he suffered, because every time he said no to his flesh suffered. But he was saying yes to his Father, and that was obedience to his Father. And every time we say no to what our flesh wants, we're saying yes to what God wants. See, that's how we're learning obedience, and that's building our character of obedience. And our love for God, our obedience to God comes out of our love for God. So the submission issue is coming out of our love condition, our love relationship. So focus more time on that love relationship with God. So when the tempter comes, like Jesus, we too can say, I only do what I hear my Father do. I see what I see my Father do. I only say what I hear my Father say. We too can be submitted to the power, to God, because of our love relationship, because our obedience to God comes out of our love for God. Know this, God, let no man say that when he is being tempted, that God is tempting him, for God cannot, it says, cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone with evil. I want to end it here. You guys be blessed. Have a good day. Be encouraged. Keep looking for the good of your day. Follow my page. Subscribe to my YouTube page. Hit that little subscribe button, and every time I do a video, it'll pop up. You guys keep looking for the good in your day. Like my Facebook page, Dating Identifier. Follow me on Facebook, Rap Time Martin. On that, be encouraged, and remember that God does not tempt us with evil. And when the tempter comes, we have not a high priest who's not touched by the feelings of our infirmity. Jesus Christ can identify with you. And I'm going to end it here. You guys be blessed and be encouraged.